Hi everyone. We're just waiting for more participants to join us. We still have about 2 minutes, and I'm seeing a lot of people joining us right now. So just stand by, and this will be a jump pack 90 minutes of discussion with, of course, our very special guest, Professor Ricky De Vera.
Next up.
Again, good afternoon, everyone. Just 1 more minute. We're waiting for more participants to join us. So far, I'm seeing about 76 participants now, and I'm sure a lot more will be joining. We've actually had more than almost 517 people who registered for today's webinar. So in a minute, we'll be starting our class 2 of the PHRG learning session or virtual learning class. And again, our guest for today is none other than Professor Ricky De Vera.
I still have to see. It's just so big.
Okay, so it's exactly 6 p.m. on my watch. I think we can start so that more people can come in.
I'm gonna.
So we're going to start. So hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Darwin Rivers, and I'm the president and founder of the Philippines HR Group. And we are right now on our second session or class 2 of our virtual learning session. And this is a free webinar session that we started yesterday. And my job right now is to introduce the host for this webinar. Our first host is Mr. Neil Lumacad, who's the head for training and employee engagement of SGS. He is also the vice president of the Philippines HR Group. And aside from him, we also have Mr. Paul Herrera, who's a HR director of a BPO company and who's also one of the founding moderators of the Philippines HR Group channel. So, Neil, Paul, please say hello to our audience for today.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Darwin. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Darwin.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Neil? It's our second session, and we're looking forward to hear a lot from our speaker, our credible speaker right now. Yeah.
Yes, we are very much excited, and I've learned from Darwin that more than 500 members of the Philippines HR Group actually registered for this webinar. So We're still waiting for more. I could see about 88 participants now, but we are expecting more. But I'm happy, personally happy that I am hosting this webinar, co-hosting it with you, Paul. And I believe I also want to ask you at this point in time, how is your organization thriving? How is your organization thriving in this present situation?
Well, so far, technically, it's really a challenge for an HR practitioner like us. We have to manage all our employees work from home, and these employees also and their performance. That's actually one of the concerns that we have. In terms of performance, we have to monitor them in terms of performance in their working from home. So technically, I'm actually looking forward to hear and learn as well from Sir Ricky on what are the things that we can apply in our organizations to make it more better in terms of performance.
For sure, we're gonna learn a lot from Professor Ricky tonight. And in my present company right now, actually, our company is so busy right now preparing for what we call the new normal, so that we'll be able to thrive better. No, a lot of things are happening in the HR. I think we could consider ourselves HR professionals. We could consider ourselves frontliners at this point in time. So I'm
Correct.
happy that working in HR, we could proudly say that yes, we are frontliners in our respective organization. So I'm also happy to announce, aside from expecting about 500 members joining in this webinar tonight, I'm also happy to announce that on behalf of PHRG that we have more than 200,000 members now. Am I correct?
Congratulations to the group, right? Right.
Congratulations to us. Yes, we are still considered the largest online HR community, right? And we are, of course, very active on Facebook. So this is also a celebration of that, no? So, and actually, this is part of our commitment. Part of our commitment, what we're going to have right now is part of our commitment to provide learning sessions, highly relevant learning sessions to our community. And earlier, Darwin said that this is our second day because this is a four-part series, right? We're having 4 virtual classes. We started that yesterday. We had something about recruitment in the time of pandemic. Were you there, Paul, yesterday?
Yeah, I was there yesterday.
And they were talking about, Gino Cabiga was our resource speaker, was talking about, studying applicants' attitude during the new normal. So yes, a lot of challenge, especially, for example, in my present company, for our talent acquisition team, it has been a challenge, but they've been doing it very well. And the shift from, the face-to-face interview to virtual interview. So we have done that as well. Anyway, while people are coming in, I could probably talk more about what we're going to have or what we're going to talk about tonight. But of course, allow me to thank again our partner, jobstreet.com. Yes, this is a very good. Yes, thank you. This is a very good collaboration between the Philippines HR Group and jobstreet.com. So thank you very much for allowing us to conduct or have these virtual learning sessions. All right. As I've said a while back, I know that HR professionals, together with HR management, are more focused right now in terms of coming up with policies, procedures, probably aligning and studying their systems and processes, so that once we go back, although we're not sure yet whether we are shifting to GCQ after May 15 or GCQ will be extended. But what is true is that after May 15, everything will not be as before. So that's why we are all preparing for the new normal, as we say. And I also know for a fact that a lot of organizations now are heavily considering a more flexible working arrangement for their employees, right? And that is exactly why we're having this webinar tonight, because we could consider ourselves as HR professionals. We have this crucial role of being the catalyst in our respective companies in terms of resurgence, or shifting or transitioning from the previous setup or the previous situation or respective organizations to what we call the new normal. And as HR professionals, we are in that critical position to be able to help our respective companies, our respective organizations thrive better moving forward. And I've mentioned about a critical and important role that we are to play. And this session is exactly that. No? This session is critical. This is crucial because as HR professionals, we have to be really catalysts of what we call resurgence, right?
That's right.
Resurgence. And our speaker right now, Professor Ricky, will be sharing with us 5 game-changing initiatives in our aim to be catalysts of resurgence. So Ricky being both a behavioral psychologist and a strategic business consultant. All right, so I'm really excited to have Sariki on the virtual floor. But before I turn over that floor to Sariki and to you, Paul, who will be formally introducing Professor Ricky de Vera, I would like to inform our audience right now that automatically your microphones are put on mute to better manage the flow of information. And then you can see at the bottom, there is a tab there that says Q&A. So we would encourage you to utilize the Q&A tab at the bottom portion of your PCs for your questions. Of course, our resource speaker will be happy, more than happy to respond to them right after his presentation. And yes, Paul, you will be moderating the Q&A tab. Is
Right,
that right?
right, Neil.
Paul
Right,
will be
Neil.
the one to choose the best questions. I'm sure there will be a lot. And I know it will be a very challenging role for you tonight because you
Correct.
have to really select and filter and probably group them together because I'm
Hi, Neil. Neil. All right. As Neil said, everyone, you can
either
probably
way, Paul.
use the Q&A portion for if you have questions or clarifications, no. And then if you also have, you can also chat. You can also chat along the way your questions, and I'll take note of it. Um, I'll acknowledge it once I already got it. So just feel free to ask questions once we started. Right, Neil? Neil? I think Neil is having a technical problem, but okay. Currently, we have 102 participants. Hi, Neil. Welcome back.
Sorry. Connectivity is life, as we say.
Right. Correct.
So Paul, I think it's best if we start to introduce our special speaker or guest speaker for today.
Right. That's I'm very excited, really, and honored to introduce Professor Ricky. Okay, for the benefit of everyone, Professor Ricky is a certified strategic innovation consultant for Japan and Singapore. He is also a certified leadership cross-cultural instructor in Germany, behavioral psychologist. He is also a certified DISC, situational leadership facilitator in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome our very credible speaker for today, Mr. Professor Ricky de Vera. Hello, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Let me just see. Can I be seen? Can I be
Yes,
seen?
sir.
Yes,
Hi,
sir.
hello,
Now,
hello to everyone. Hi, Neil. Hi, Paul. Hi, Darwin. Hi, the rest of the world, and everybody. It's a first and foremost, it's my honor to actually be invited to the biggest, uh, association of HR practitioners. Okay? If you're saying that it's your honor to invite me, it's also my honor to be here. And I feel this is one way to actually reach out to the HR practitioners and share with them also new insights that I have been sharing to the business community. And I just like to find out how many so far. I see that we have around 105 participants. I just wanted to do a quick survey of how many of them has actually gotten to already either become my student, attended my workshops or seminars, or have seen me in conventions already, or has read my articles or are following me already in my FB page. If I'd appreciate maybe some of you could just type in the chat like, yeah, Prof, I've seen you already. So at least I have a feel of how many here already know my style. Anyone?
Probably, Sir Ricky, while we are waiting for those whom we have encountered before, as they type in the chat box, I would want to personally share my experience with you because when I was in another company, I got to attend one of your talks. It's about more on salesmanship. And I actually got that particular style of being animated while you're delivering your presentation from you. That I would have to thank you, Sir Ricky, because prior to that, I was the kind of a bit more stiff whenever I'm presenting or delivering my training programs. But after having attended your training, so I realized, being animated will not be, will actually deliver or facilitate a better conveyance of what you're saying or what you're presenting. So that's just my personal take. I believe the others have already written something on the chat box regarding their experience with you, Sir Ricky.
Oh,
Right. There are
wow.
actually few members or viewers that's actually attended a class from you, Sir Ricky.
Okay. Well, that's good because at least this is the first time most of them will get to really be able to connect with my style. And so, yeah, I guess I'd like to move on with, there's so much I'd like to share. And I invite those that are, have registered. If you know them, but they're not yet here, please do so. Because I'll be taking two sides here. Okay, I'll be taking the side of the business management, and I'll be taking the side of the HR practitioner. So it's going to be a very interesting fusion. And then I will end up with the HR practitioner per se. And in my topic, since this is about resurgence, please listen very carefully because I will always be sharing 5 items. 5 items. 5 items from the business owner and executive's perspective, what they should be looking at. 5 items on what the HR department should be looking at, and 5 items of what the HR practitioner and the rest of the team of the organization should be looking at. Okay, so let me therefore move on with my presentation. Okay, I guess I can start already, right, guys? Yes. Okay. So, you're hearing me. So, first and foremost, just as a background, what you will be going through with me is a combination because of my background. I'm a business advisor mentor. So, in other words, I talk to executives, business owners, and of course, a lot of HR directors as well from the executive level. But at the same time, because of my behavioral psychology background, I also do relate from the side of, the people management side. So I'm taking a very interesting balancing act here. And I'd like to encourage everyone, you'd like to share my ideas to your management. I know many of you are online on a regular basis. Please do so because this is not just for HR, this is also for the rest of the organization. Okay. So the title of what I'd like to share is Be the Catalyst of Resurgence. Okay? And, many of my friends also in FB and in my FB page, when they saw this ad, was asking, Prof, why Catalyst of Resurgence? So this is one thing that people appreciate. I break down the words that I use because each of them has to have a meaning. So to be the catalyst of resurgence, what does that really mean? Okay, let me therefore be clear. Catalyst is a condition, an event, or a person. And that person I am looking at is the one who is now viewing this presentation. That causes or initiates an important and significant set of initiatives from within. That's a catalyst. That's the business definition of a catalyst. And as an advisor and a mentor, that's what I've been sharing. Catalyst is from within. It could be a condition, an event, or a person that causes or initiates an important and significant set. More often than not, does not wait, because if you wait, you're reactive. So a catalyst is more forward looking. Now, you probably might have heard there are titles going around that says be the catalyst of change. But for me, my title is be the catalyst of resurgence. So there's something different there. And let me explain why I chose the word resurgence. Resurgence is the rising again into life, activity, or prominence due to a set of realizations that have already been addressed or is now being addressed. So, if you take a look at it, just the title alone, pinag-isipan ko ito. I am a deep thinker that catalyst means to say a person that can initiate something significant from within, and resurgence means to say we can rise up again, okay, in terms of prominence because there has been certain realizations. Now, the beauty of this is where I'm coming from is based also, I am a business economist, okay? And so therefore, I have also been invited in platforms in terms of where the economy is going. The, the thing that I have found over the last, if I were to call it, over the last 40 years, okay, in the global community, is whenever there is a catastrophic event, okay, the resurgence is something that people appreciate, bounce back. There is a resurgence, but the resurgence transforms organizations. So I will not do my economic briefing. We could do that in another session, but I'm seeing a resurgence that will happen after. We are, of course, still in a work in progress because we don't know yet when the lockdown will actually be lifted, but there is a resurgence. The thing, however, is this one, okay? And I'd like to share this. Keep an open mind, my good friends, because in the business community, I am known as the unorthodox thinker. Okay. I did not use the word catalyst of change. I did not. Because from a business perspective and as a advisor to many organizations, both here and globally, this is what I'd like to share. Okay. This is my own quotation. Change happens in the environment, not necessarily in an organization. This is my point of view, my good friends. This is my point of view. Unless you want to change the people. Because if you take a look at the meaning of change, nagpalit. Okay? And that's why when I'm being asked also by organizations, Prof, can you handle a change management course for our company? I said, teka, sandali lang. If it's change management course, papalitan natin ang tao ninyo. Hindi, Prof. Yung kanilang mindset. Hindi, therefore, sa akin lang po, don't get me wrong here, change happens in the environment. For me, avoid using the word change because from a behavioral standpoint, pag sinabi mo sa isang team, we need to change, natataranta yung tao, natataranta yung team. Because I've also done studies on sociology about the Filipino mindset. Pag sinabi mong change, imbes na sumunod yan, natataranta yan. That's my point of view. Again, that's my point of view as a business consultant advisor. I avoid using the word let's change or be the catalyst of change since organizations don't really change. They respond or they react to the changes in the environment. So that's where I'm coming from. Again, you can agree or disagree. I have no issue, but this is a paradigm I'm sharing. I'm sharing. And I've realized that people become more supportive when we say Guys, the change is in the environment, and as an organization, we need to respond. Mas nakukuha ko yung buy-in ng tao eh. Sige sir, ano gagawin natin? Yan. Anyway, I'd like to now move on. Again, this is my belief. Change is in the environment. That's why when we do business briefing every quarter, kasi nag-change yung environment eh. Now, I'd like to move on. Because there is this need to be the catalyst of resurgence. And as I mentioned po, ang nag-change is the environment. It's the environment. Okay. What is important now, from a business perspective, ano ang tinitingnan nila? More often than not, profitability, revenue and profitability. And I'm saying this as an advisor. I talk to many business owners, bottom line ang tinitingnan yan. Revenue and then profitability. And there's nothing wrong for that. There is nothing wrong for that. However, in our session right now, I'd like to introduce, and when I talk to business owners or I'm invited to management meetings of executives, I always say, iba ang pananaw pag business ang tinitingnan, iba ang pananaw pag organization ang tinitingnan. Because business is about numbers, revenue, financials. Pag organization, that's why I put in a different cap. You look at the structure, you look at the systems of the organization, and you look at the people. So nagkakaroon ng, for me, paradigm. And that's why I am also, I like talking to HR practitioners, the directors of HR, because the OD, the organizational development, in many organizations is a futile exercise because, and again, I'm saying this with all candor, because if the executives are business-minded, hindi masyadong na-appreciate ang organizational development. Okay. That's why, more often than not, a third party would be something of interest because the business owners will say, ano ba sabi mo? Ano ba sabi ng third party? Prof, ano ba? Sabi ko, you're looking at it from a business perspective and tingnan natin from an organizational perspective. Structure and people. Okay. So I'd like to therefore move on now. Okay. So business, fine. When I talk to the business owners, pero pag ang pinag-uusapan na really I want to have my management team join us, I tell the owner, can we now shift gears? Let's talk organization. Let's talk organization. At pag tinanong bakit, ang sagot ko, because we are talking to your managers, we're talking of processes, systems, structure, people. Ganun ba? O sige, buti na lang sinabi mo. I guess that's what we're bringing in, okay? And that's what I'd like to share. Now, moving forward, if we therefore would like, and this is based on studies, I've talked also to a number of business consultants and advisors and mentors in Asia Pacific because I'm very active there. In Europe, I have a lot of engagements there as well, and in the US. Our recommendation, personally from my end, is if we want to move forward, if you want your organization to move forward, make it a strategic resiliency direction. Okay. By the way, many of the slides I will share, you cannot find this on the internet. Or if you do, hindi yung kompleto. Because what I do is I either create my own mindset in terms of a model, or I build up on models. So I'm using the word, and maybe this is something, this terminology is not popular to many of you, strategic resiliency. Yan po ang direction that we are recommending to be a catalyst of resurgence. So ano yung strategic resiliency? It is a characteristic of a cohesive, well-thought, pragmatic, progressive, and robust pursuit of solutions. Tingnan niyo po, in a disruptive environment. What is happening today, the pandemic, is a disruption. It is the terminology in business na ginagamit po namin dyan, it is a disruptive environment. Okay. So that kung disruptive environment yan, ang kailangan mo, cohesiveness, pragmatic, progressive, robust, at solusyon. So that as you're doing that, the exploration contributes to the organization's capability to be able to relate, adapt, and respond without requiring or resulting in a major financial or other crisis. Where am I coming from? Nasa disruptive environment na tayo. What we're seeing in a number of companies is, okay, let's come out with our strategies. But what I'm seeing in terms of strategy is this, cut that, stop this, stop that. Parang, hold on. You're actually creating more crisis. Nasa crisis mode na nga, more crisis pa. And of course, pag ang kinausap ko, Ricky, kasi bottom line namin, sandali lang. And I hope you don't mind, you could quote me on this, my good friends. Because I get to talk to business owners and executives. I tell them, you are in a disruptive environment crisis mode. You do not want to complicate it with more crisis. Can we put on our organizational hat instead of business only? Doon po minsan nakakaroon ng na, hindi ba kailangan protektahan ng business? Sandali lang. Dito nga masusubukan eh. That's why I'm using the word strategic resiliency. Now, if we go into strategic resiliency, what I am emphasizing there is, ito ha, in-identify ko na po in red yung words. It requires strategic innovation thinking. Organizations should put this into their discussions. If you're doing online meetings, you recommend this. Sir, mag-strategic innovation thinking tayo pag nag-meeting online. Total, naka-ECQ tayo ngayon. Ano yung sabihin nun? Cognitive IQ thinking eh. But abstract reasoning. Ang tanong, bakit abstract? Because hindi pa po permanent ang nangyayari. We are still unfolding. That's what I say as a business consultant, as an advisor. Hindi pa tapos. Wala pang new normal. So, kailangan may abstract thinking na pumasok sa innovation. And then, I'd like to put in the other point here. I-read ko rin po. To be able to relate, to be able to adapt, and to be able to respond. Kasi tao ngayon yan eh. You have to bring in EQ maturity, emotional maturity. Okay. And that would mean to say, and where I'm emphasizing this, behavioral psychology, right? For me, the approach should be senses. What I have noticed in many is, tingnan natin ito. Okay, pakinggan natin ito. As an advisor, as a mentor, this is what I say. The pandemic cannot just simply be an IQ issue to solve. The pandemic is both an IQ and an emotional issue. That's why I get to see there's so many technical skills training, etc. I love that. Pero baka nakakalimutan natin, pandemic ito. Takot is not IQ. That's EQ. Fear, EQ. Anxiety, EQ. Okay? And it's not just, oy, huwag kayong matakot. No. There has to be the behavioral psychology experience there. And sad to say, of course, that many HR departments do not really have HR psychology practitioners, behavioral psychology practitioners. Okay? And so what happens is, sumunod tayo, personally, I feel this slide says a lot already. Strategic innovation with abstract thinking, and then EQ maturity. Okay. Now, I go back again. I mentioned earlier, with this kind of an environment, it would be interesting to know when I will put my business cap in a meeting or the organizational cap. Ngayon, pag-uusapan ko po itong structure and system so that people can be able to relate on this one. Okay? Structure and system. Okay. For those who are listening, this is what you discuss with your management team, with your executives, with the business owners. Okay. And this is what I call the challenges to the organization, the challenges to the executives post-pandemic. And what is that? Look at your structure, look at your system. Uh, this diagram, you can see this in, this one is available in internet, but I will add a few things here. So you start first with, ano bang vision and mission natin? Okay. And then you've got the directing setting, people, process, tools, organization. So this is a wheel. Okay. And this is where I'm coming from. Okay, your executives are meeting, the management is meeting. You as HR manager or HR director, you're part of that. You're part of the C-suite. Okay, so ito po ang sinasuggest namin pag-usapan. Kailan? During the quarantine period. Huwag na natin intayin matapos ang quarantine. During the quarantine period. Okay, what is that? Strategies and goals. Di ba ho? Pag nag-uusapan yan and leadership, pinag-uusapan yan. Kaya lang ang gusto ko pong i-emphasize is this. When you now start talking about strategies and goals and leadership, the first R I am emphasizing is kindly rethink. Rethink your strategies, rethink your goals, and rethink your definition of leadership. Because this is pandemic moving to post-pandemic. And more often than not, the strategies, as an organization po ito, not just HR, as a business and as an organization, for sure, your strategies and your goals that you crafted last year for this year, most of them, you'll not be able to implement anymore. So rethink is what needs to happen. Next, tingnan natin ang people. One of the most salient discussions in any organization, measure, 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 measure. Performance measures and rewards, and then yung culture natin. Okay. Now, this is the second R I'm emphasizing. When you're looking at your measures, performance management systems, when you're looking at the kind of culture that we have, but more specifically, when you're looking at the measures, the R that I am advising, not just suggesting. By the way, what I'm presenting, all the models I'm presenting to the group, to the observers, to the participants, we are using this now with our advisory to many companies, okay, and to our mentoring to them. Pagka performance measures po and rewards ang tinitingnan, ang amin pong ina-advise, remember the second R for organizations, redesign. You need to ask yourself, ano ba yung magiging panibagong job descriptions? Ano ba yung bagong KRA? Ano ba yung magiging bagong KPI? Magkakaroon ba ng real, are we going to have to fine-tune it? Redesign. And then you have what is called, you look at the process and systems. Okay, that's interesting. Titingnan mo, ano yung procedure? Step 1, step 2, step 3. Again, as an organization ito, as an organization with executive, I enter now my third R. When you're taking a look at processes and systems, you'll have to remember the third R, re-engineering. Re-engineering. We are doing now a number of re-engineering programs with a number of our clients, even before the pandemic hit. Because remember, I mentioned, I am invited by organizations pag business planning, and I give them the business briefing, landscape of what the future will be. And this one, you can quote me, and I have the videos that will show this. When I was doing and sharing the business briefing coming into 2020, I was already mentioning to many in the audience, 2020 is not going to be easy sailing. It's going to be very, very challenging to the point it could become a game changer. And that's because of that, a number of companies therefore said, ano gagawin namin? Ito pong pinipresent ko sa inyo ngayon template, ang ginagawa na namin with them. So they're able to absorb faster and they're able to become more resilient. Okay, so what I'm presenting is models that I am actually applying already with organizations. So there is that I have tested this. Now let's move on. Then you take a look at the learnings, diba? I mean, how do we now bring learnings to the rest of the people in the organization? how will we bring it to that mode? And the fourth R is what I'd like to emphasize here. Pagdating po sa learning and information connectivity, I'd like you to remember the fourth R and think about this very well. Rewire. Because learning and information does not go together immediately. There has to be a rewiring with regards to how to put them to make sense. Which leads us now to taking a look at the reorganization or the organizational structure. I have seen this. We've been working with a number of our clients as well. There is a tendency to reorganize, okay, because of what is happening and moving forward. And when you look at reorganizing or the organizational structure, okay, I'd like you to remember the fifth R. You would most probably rewrite how your organization structure will be moving forward. So, my good friends, the audience, from if you're the owner or you're an executive of the company, you're a vice president or you are an AVP, okay, ito pong shinare ko sa inyo and the 5 Rs is what you need to take a look at, because that is from a owner and executive's point of view and the management team. Now I go to the next part of my presentation. Okay. And because of what is happening today, my good friends, I've been writing also to an Inquirer. You know, one of the articles that people really appreciate that I have written. The way I sense it moving forward, organizations would need to revisit their vision and mission. If not, employees will find difficulty to align with visions and missions. That's order number one. Saan nyo ba ngayon gustong dalhin yung organization? Okay, and you can check this out. This is an article. I've been writing articles, and I see this now. When people go back to the organizations, will the current vision and mission still be practical for them? Yun pa rin ba? Maybe that question should be asked to the management and to the executive. Okay. Now, I'd like to go to the next one. And what is this? HR naman. HR and the management. Okay. So I'm moving now from the executives, HR, and the line HR people. I hope everybody understands what is a line HR. These are operating department heads who needs to also understand HR. So for the HR and the line HR leaders, ito naman po ang gusto kong i-share. Okay. How your role is human capital strategy. The executives is business strategy. So because of that, of course, you'd like to have results from the talent. And linalagay ko po sa gitna dyan, if that is to happen, there has to be clarity and cohesiveness now. If we take a look at this wheel that is being used in many organizations, what does this mean? HR and line HR leaders will now have to take a look at their HR plans. Eh, di ba? Meron tayong ganyan at the start of every year. What is your HR plan? And it includes how do we fill in positions, acquiring. Now, I'd like to put this now, a new set of R's. New set of R's naman po ito. When you are looking at your HR plans and you're looking on how do we therefore, take a look at how we fill in some possible vacancies, or how do we now take a look at our recruitment process, my advice, okay, is this. First R, reframe. Reframe. R-E-F-R-A-M-E. Reframe, please, your mindset when you are doing this portion. Dahil ang ibig sabihin po ng reframe, paradigm shift ka. Paradigm shift ka because of the changing landscape. Disruptive yan. Okay. The new normal na sinasabi nila, social distancing, that's reframe. Then, di ba ho? What do you do next? You go and ask yourself, oh, how do we get people on board? Or how do we now get our people to be engaging again? And how do we therefore develop them? What kind of learning and training do we give to them? Second R, refocus. You'll have to look at your inventory of skills. You'll have to look at your inventory of competencies. You'll have to ask you have to refocus it. Teka muna, moving forward, things are going to be, because of the vision mission that was discussed earlier by Professor Vera that our executives are looking at now, we'll have to refocus. And then, as an HR and a line HR, to complete this cycle, the next thing that you do, okay, is that you move on into, right? O saan natin ilalagay yung mga tao ngayon? Are we closing down some of our stores? Who do we retain? Where do we put them? Where do we redeploy them? Okay? And I'd like to put this, the third R, reprioritize now. Because you cannot have as many in the certain location. So you're now going to be taking a look at reprioritizing your manpower complement in the different work areas. Then you're also going to be starting to talk about, so, okay, remember earlier, yung pinakita kong slide for the executives, please share that to the executives. Di ba, pag-uusapan doon, okay, what are the new leadership competencies that we have to talk about? So pagdating sa HR and HR leaders ngayon, ang tanong dyan, so who should be leading now the different teams, the new teams, etc. And this is where I'd like to call it rationalization. I'll tell you why. Based on work that we're doing now with a number of companies as well, we are realizing and we are making them realize in a pandemic situation and moving forward in the new normal, some of the leaders that you have identified who could lead before might not be as capable to lead during these times. With all due respect to leaders, kasi po, di ba, nagdadagdagan na yung leadership competencies na kailangan eh. That's why there is a rationalization now. And there are cases where you say, okay, during these times, huwag ka muna mag-lead. Siya muna. And how do you get your people to understand that? Because ang sabi, leader ako. But this is the reality. You need to know when to lead and you need to know when to follow if you were a leader. I hope I'm making a point there. And then, ladies and gentlemen, you decide who do we retain. Okay, and there are cases. Well, I just did a talk yesterday, and it was about career movement. And there are cases that some of our employees will bite the bullet and say, you know what, sir, if this na intayin ko pang, you will ask me to go, I'll go. Yeah, and sometimes you'll have to start asking yourself this question now. Who do we retain? Why will we retain them? What kind of package do we give them moving forward? And that's where the fifth R is going to be, realign. So my good friends, on this second level, I introduced 5 new R's for the HR and the HR leaders. Reframe, refocus, reprioritize, rationalize, and realign. Which leads us now, okay, to the last portion of my presentation. Ikaw mismo, the one listening to me, and the rest of the employees. What is important now is what is your contribution to the organization? Individual ito, what is your contribution? And here, I'm talking now of reboot and restart. Okay. Reboot and restart are terminologies that is used in computers. It is to reload the operating system of a computer, to start it up again. It means that because of a malfunction, it stops, so you'll have to reboot it. Ngayon, gagamitin ko po yung word na reboot sa individual, sa tao. Okay. And this is my redefinition. Relative to an individual, Okay? Sa akin po ito. This is the way I see it. Reboot means that person appreciates the knowledge of the past. You know, this is one thing I'm always emphasizing also in many discussions with individuals and HR and even managers. Hindi mo pwedeng itapon ng nakaraan. There has to be an appreciation of the knowledge of the past, but there also has to be an acclimatization. Dapat ma-acclimatize ka to the realities of the present. Kasi reality yan eh. Why are you denying it? And the present is disruptive. Pero hindi pa yan tapos. And you need to anticipate as well the diversity moving forward of solutions that has to happen. So, past, present, and future. This is my quotation po. Okay. And therefore, because of this, okay, what does it mean to you? You yourself, or to the rest of the organization, to the employees. Okay. Meron po akong 5 R pa din. So 5 Rs for the third time. Okay. And here, as I share this, it's because we're also able to already apply it. Okay. Okay. So meron na po itong practical application that we have been doing with a number of organizations as well. And I'd like to share this. First, you have to put down, okay, this is the last portion. What should you, not might, but should. What should you or your team or the rest of the employees do to be a catalyst of resurgence? Right? Mas maganda po kung lahat eh. So there are 5 Rs here that I'd like to share with you that we are applying now to many of our partner clients and customers and accounts as well, both here and in the region, in Asia Pacific. Okay. First, reflect. Reflect. And what does that mean? For us, when we talk of reflect, I realized, and this one was even 3 years ago, I realized that in many organizations, there is a need for what I call a retreat. Not religious, but a personal self-discovery. And we were doing this before the pandemic. We were bringing out people after their team building, because I said, after team building, what happens next? Team building puts teams together. What if you're not together like what's happening now? Okay? Mas maganda po kung magkakasama kayo. But you know, when you're in isolation, when you're in the work from home, where's your team? Di ba? So, I realized, teka, kailangan ng retreat. So, this is something, you know, when you do reflections, it would be interesting if you go through a retreat. Not a religious, but a personal self-discovery journey. And we're doing this now. We have created a virtual retreat for organizations or their individuals online. And it's happening as I'm talking. We just did some a couple of days ago. There's not anymore on the ground, it's online retreat. Very interesting. And the best way to do a retreat is when people are isolated. But it's important because they get to know themselves better. You got to know yourself better. Next R, reassess. Reassess, mga kaibigan po. And when we talk about reassess, ang retreat kasi, you reflect it. Then you move on towards reassess. And what is that? I believe and I am a advocate of mindfulness in work. And for us, that is so important because mindfulness is when you value now the time that is given. You value now your contribution. And in our case, we have developed webinars on mindfulness in work. And this is to support the virtual retreat. So this one is for people individually. So this is who I am. How can I be more mindful of what I do? The third R, my good friends, recalibrate. And what is recalibrate? For sure, as we move on in this pandemic, there will be a need for each and every one to recalibrate. There is something you have to recalibrate in yourself, either in the way you do things, in the way you think, in the way you feel. And there is a program that we use. It's called Develop a Fire from Within. This is a guidance formation session where people are assisted and guided on recalibrating. The fourth R, my good friends, you need to revitalize. Okay? And what is that? You need to harness your drive and your productivity. And this has to happen through interactive experiences until finally the fifth R for the reboot is what I would term as resiliency of the individual. I'm not sure if you've heard of the V.U.C.A. Okay. Okay. Just on the side lang po, V.U.C.A is what has happened actually in the pandemic. It is nagkasabay-sabay ang volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and then pinasukan pa ng ambiguity. Sabay-sabay silang dumating, kaya naging pandemic, kaya naging disruptive. And because of this, nagkaroon po ngayon ng elevation na because of V.U.C.A, there will need to be new competencies in people. And I'm happy that I've been invited to a lot of leadership summits, both here and in Asia Pacific region, talking about the new competencies in a V.U.C.A environment. And I felt this is the best time for people to actually develop that. So V.U.C.A stands for volatility, and I, as a thought leader, have created a competency that will address it, versatility. Then for uncertainty, unwavering. For complexity, contextualization, and for ambiguity, agility. Okay, so this is something that we have developed to organizations, and this is now what they're adding on as competencies to their leaders, to their people, because I'll tell you one thing very clearly, the pandemic might end, but the disruptive in the landscape will continue in other forms. So the question, are your leadership competencies already enough, or do we need to embrace and instill the V.U.C.A competency? Okay, so these are the 5 R's. Again, I'm sharing this because we have crafted and I saw that it has worked for a number of companies. You can take a look at it. You can, if you'd like to do it on your own, fine, but these are 5 things for individuals. I therefore would like to end, my good friends, with my presentation with, because I have, if you notice down in all my slides, I have my FB personal, my FB page, and my email and my mobile phone. But in my FB personal and page, I usually post a lot of motivational thoughts. And I'd like to end with one of those motivational thoughts. I had somebody take this, that's me. And I was in this city where there was, the road was splitting. And I wanted to say this, and for everybody, our future brings us to crossroads, which I sense we are in right now. And we need to make decisions. Whatever is the outcome of your decision will make you wiser. So keep on moving and be a catalyst of resurgence. Okay. And with that, I'd also like to share for those who will be visiting, this is how my FB page will look like. And I welcome all of you. Thank you, Paul, Neil. Yeah, that's my sharing to the group. Yeah, please take over.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sir Ricky. Wow.
Right.
I've actually learned a lot of R's today.
Right.
And I was actually taking notes while I was, short. I think it is safe for me to say now that I would have to agree with you on your last slide, and you were talking about us being in all the crossroads right now. I could consider as an HR practitioner that we are actually on that kind of road right now.
That's true. Yeah. Crossroads can come and go, but there will be crossroads that will be critical. And I sense that this pandemic is a critical
And at the
crossroads.
same That's right. And at the same time, you were also mentioning, I mean, towards the latter part of your presentation, you were mentioning about our role now in HR in terms of taking good care of our employees. Like, I like the virtual retreat that you are saying and about the mindfulness thing. So more than ever, I have realized the crucial role that we are to play in this current situation. Talking to the management would be much of a challenge, and at the same time, taking good care of your employees. So it's quite a challenging role right now. But my question now would be, who do I get to talk first? Would it be talking to the executives first, to the owners of the management, before I get to talk to the employees, or have some programs for the employees, or the other way around, or shall I do it simultaneously, sir?
Okay, that's a very interesting question because it's like it's like you're playing chess, and there are just so many first moves, and you want to make sure that your first move actually makes a lot more sense. And this is what I'd like to share. Uh, ideally, it would be of interest. Ideally, it would be of interest to first get to understand where the executives are coming from. Okay. So that we have what I call a harmony in terms of messaging. Okay. HR for me, the way I see HR, you are a strategic partner. And this pandemic that we have here, for me, is the perfect situation where the executive should appreciate HR from a strategic perspective, not just from an administrative perspective or a training perspective. That's why, if you notice, I presented a template for the executives. Okay, and before I even talked about HR, because my sense is this one. Yeah, sometimes HR has a difficulty in reaching the executives. Is the executives say, "Oh, you're talking from an HR perspective." My sense is because I get to talk to a lot of business owners and C-suite executives. When I talk to them and I want to bring in an HR cost, I don't say this is what HR is saying. No, I say this is where your organization needs to go to, of which HR is a vital component. So for me, my first move is get to know where the management is coming from. And I don't mind, I don't mind if some of you or if many of you would like to share to management what I just shared about that wheel and the 5 R's from a perspective of executive. Then after that, my next suggestion is, if that is clear, o dyan nanggagaling ang management, then I suggest you go to the third, which is what? You go to yourself. You go to yourself. Because now that you've heard where management would like to go, okay, before you even talk as a department, ito na gagawin natin, I feel what's important tanungin mo muna ang sarili mo ngayon. You do what I did, right? Which is reflect, reassess. Am I ready for where management would like to go? And then comes in the third, which is what? Let's now talk as an HR, and very important dito, bring the line HR people with you. Yan ang kakampi natin HR, di ba? Yan ang kakampi nyo, the line HR, the operations people, the managers, di ba? Because I feel this is not an HR department issue. Not at this time. It is everybody's concern. That's how I'd like to answer that. First move, get to understand where management is coming from.
Thank you very much, Ricky. Yeah, I would have to agree with you in a lot of aspects. Yes, it's really very important that we are to get the buy-in of our management, the higher management, in terms of what we're going to do in this time of pandemic. And it's good also, and that you are willing to, you're okay with us sharing the wheel and all the R's that, of course, you shared with us this evening. Because yes, definitely we'll be doing that. And I believe what you said also emphasized the importance of getting as partner of HR, the line managers, because we understand that at this point in time, the line managers, the middle managers actually would play a crucial role and in all of these things that we are to carry out as we prepare to transition to, I'm not sure if you're okay with the term new normal. Are
Yeah,
you
yeah,
also using that new normal? You're saying
right.
actually
But
new normal is not grammatical or politically incorrect, but in your case, Sir Ricky.
right. Actually, I'd like to put it this way. When people are talking about the new normal, I always add this perspective. It is still unfolding. There has not really been any set new normal, even in other countries. Everybody's still going for the progressive, releasing of the lockdowns. So there is really no such thing yet as a what is really the new normal. But we cannot wait for it, right? What we therefore need to do is, kumbaga, sumabay ka na muna for the meantime. And that's also something I'd like to mention. I tell a lot of business owners and executives that do not make final decisions at this point in time. You might regret it. Kasi nag-unfold pa ang scenarios eh. That's my word of wisdom ha. Na minsan kasi because of desperation, decision dito, decision to. You might regret it. We do not have yet a final new normal scenario. So that's also something I'd like to add. But yes, we can use new normal, but it's still progressing. It's still progressing.
I like the terms progressing and still unfolding. Well, thank you very much, Ricky. At this point in time, I'd like to
Yeah.
turn over the floor to Paul for some questions from our audience. Paul?
Okay. Thank you, Sir Ricky. That's really, really a lot of learning from us HR practitioners. No, actually, one of the things that I would like to highlight on that, because I'm very much involved. I just wanted all most of my HR friends. I actually told them to do the debriefing because these crises giving a lot of issues personally, emotionally. So I'm very happy that we were able to tackle that on the third set of ours.
Yeah.
That's I think that's very important right now before we start before we go back to work for all the employees, and that's very important because we have to bring them back to the reality. Okay,
Agreed.
right.
Agreed.
So Ricky, I would have one person to would ask online that is Florina Santiago. Florina, I'll give you the floor to ask Sir Ricky.
Okay. Yes, please. Florina.
Florina, are you here? Are you there? Hello?
Lorena is on mute.
Sorry. Wait.
It's mute on her end.
Okay. I think we'll move forward with our next question. The next question that I have, Sir Ricky, what possible strategy would you suggest in managing human resources in the education industry, given the uncertainties brought about the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay. Um, I'll answer it the way I will answer it from a business strategy standpoint. I'll answer it pragmatic. There, it's that question is actually very challenging because to be able to give an answer to that, I will have to ask, what do you do in the education industry? Are you the school? Are you the institution? Because like yesterday, I was doing also a session wherein I had from DepEd, Department of Education. And you know what was interesting is in that session, I had administrators, I had teachers, and I had student leaders. Each of them has different perspectives. So my answer is now dependent on who are you there? Are you the student leader? Are you the administrator? Are you the teacher? Because if I just simply say, because you're in the education system, this is the best strategy, I am not going to be truthful to my certification as an advisor. An advisor kasi pinapragmatic namin yan eh. But probably if I were just to share, if I were to share, okay, the biggest challenge right now in education is that people and students and the institutions are now forced to do more online learnings, less of the face-to-face. Okay, And what I have realized is this. We have more students who are internet savvy than the educators. Okay, and because of that, there has to therefore be, can I use now this terminology, the strategy of convergence. Convergence means to say you can, if you want to approach education, you cannot approach it in just one method. You now have to have convergence of the different methods of connectivity to be able to relate to the student population. So if I was really going to be asked what general strategy, the strategy of convergence, it cannot be one. Now we'll have to do much more. The modes and the mediums as well. Because education will always be there. The question is, how did you connect to me? How did you connect to me?
Thank you, Sir Ricky. I
Thank
think,
you, Paul.
yeah, that's really a good question, no? Because technically, in school, there's really a lot of aspect that we need to connect. It's not only, unlike in the formal corporate office, we only have the management and we only have the employees. I agree with you on that, sir. Okay. Second question we have: this pandemic, how can we make sure that the mental health of employees are well taken care of? Can you suggest some possible activities or ways that we can properly address mental health issues?
Oh, okay. For clarification now on this one. From a psychological perspective, in one of the sessions that I was also conducting for another group, the statement was, Sir, kasi depressed na. So I'd like to also find out, because if we say, given today's times, how can we ensure mental health? I'll have to ask this question. At what stage is the mental health of the individual? Okay? Because that's critical for me as a behavioral psychologist. Eh. So, ano ba yan? Nasa pressure stage ba siya? Nasa stress stage? Nasa anxiety stage? Nasa depression stage? I hope you don't mind if I'm sort of belaboring the issue, but as a psychologist, kasi, diba, we have to be a bit more cautious in answering it. And if the person says, Sir, kasi ano na siya, nasa anxiety stage na siya, there is a different approach or mental health if you are in the anxiety stage. If you are in the stress stage, there is also a different set of initiatives. If you are in the depressed stage, there is also a different set of initiative. If you're in the pressure stage, but there is a common, this one I'd probably like to put in, but there is one common initiative across all. And what is that? What is that? Surround yourself with positive stimuli. Kailangan yung mind mo mayroong iniisip, di ba? Because once the mind does not think anymore because wala na akong iniisip, papasok na dyan ang anxiety, depression, etc. So, one common, surround yourself with things to do or things to think about. Uh, for me, for example, I take time to enjoy documentaries now, yung mga sa National Geography, Discovery, para lang na-stimulate yung mind ko kasi nag-uumpisa yan sa cognitive eh. Tapos nagiging sensing na yan eh. So that's what I probably like to recommend. And these are things that you can do on your own. On your own. Okay? But of course, again, depending on the state, because mental health for me is about mindfulness. Okay? So if the mind does not have so much to do, then it will float there. And then, so that's what I'd like to, at least a general first thing to do, surround yourself with something, okay, or people, or if there's nobody there, you're isolated, turn on the TV or email your friends. Important po is occupied, and choose who would like to connect with. Kasi baka meron tinatawag tayo dyan na pag nagko-connect ka naman dun sa mga hindi masyadong optimist, di ba? Pare, katapusan na ng mundo. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel that's not something we would like. Of course. So you have to start also getting to be a bit selective from that side. Yeah,
Correct.
selective.
And I think
Probably,
probably
uh,
as Sir Ricky, no, sorry Neil, probably we can
yeah,
also disconnect ourselves to those negative posts that we can see in social media. That's really a lot, and that's really have a big impact to individual, especially on their mental health, that they are not doing anything, right?
Paul and Neil, I'll tell you, most of the news that catches attention are the not so good news. And imagine
that's
if you're
true.
starting your day with the not so good news, it affects the rest. And you're already in isolation, and then you take a look at something and then not so good, wala na, apektado ka na dyan eh. Unless you really are very strong in terms of knowing, discerning. Pero I'd rather suggest nga, tama yan eh, be selective. Be selective. Like this
Correct,
one,
correct.
attending our session. This is something I find it so interesting that I'm reading the chats of the participants as well, and our audience is very interesting. I call it psychic income, di ba? If you're a uh, trainer or a consultant, di ba? Psychic income natin yan, eh. Natutuwa tayo that we're giving guidance to people. Oh, I tell you, if you can put psychic income here, then the financial will follow.
I
Right,
Yes,
agree
yeah.
with
right.
you, Sir Ricky. Definitely. Probably, Paul, if I may,
Sure.
you were talking about, well, the question earlier was about a specific industry in the education industry. But when we talk about, different industries, would the R's that you shared be applicable to all kinds of industries that we are in? I think that is one challenge that we are facing right now. For example, I'm in the manufacturing industry. Going online would be much difficult. I have skilled workers to deal with. But would your R's be applicable? All of these R's would be applicable regardless of the industry that you are in.
Okay, interesting clarification. My answer to that one is this. There are so many models out there actually that I could have presented. But then I realized that since I was going to be in a forum wherein people will be coming from all industries, all facets, I decided to share what I would call more of the standards model. Okay. However, I'd have to put it into perspective as well. Ang caveat kasi dyan is this one eh. Like for example, in the first wheel that I shared for the executives, di ba? For if you're a VP, etc., you can talk to your executives, magkakaintindihan kayo dyan. The thing, however, of course, is you have to remember this. When you're applying those models, it has to be relative to the situation that you are in. So mayroong mga certain parts of that model, hindi mo na yung masyadong i-highlight kasi wala naman na tayong issue doon, right? So because what I notice also with some people, uh, is they get a model and they apply it as if, parang hindi na nagkaroon ng assessment. So tuloy, minsan sinasabi, ano ba yung model na yan? Ginagawa na natin to. So we also have to be discerning. So the models for the executives, the models for the HR and the line HR, and the models for the individual, I would say, is applicable in different scenarios, but you just have to be assessing and sensitive at what point do you emphasize them. At what point? So maybe some people there, for example, in the third, sabi ko, it starts with you first getting to really understand who you are, di ba? Yung retreat. Maybe some people there say, hindi ko na kailangan yan kasi I really know myself already. So maybe I can go now into the mindfulness. So that's where I'm coming from. But it's probably what's good is they look at it as some kind of a checklist. Here is a checklist.
Mhm.
Let me see what we have strong, where we might be missing, and that's what I take and discuss.
Thank
That's
you,
very
Sir
good,
Yes.
Ricky.
Sir Ricky. No, it's a very good point that you have to make an assessment first, and all of these R's are good use, but depending on, let's say, which R to emphasize in a particular scenario, in a particular period, probably in the whole scheme of things. But yeah, thank you very much, Sir Ricky. Any more questions from our audience, Paul?
I think we could answer one more question since it's 7:17 already.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
actually, the next question that I have is coming from our previews from yesterday's speaker, Gino. Hi, Gino. Sir, in your opinion, what would be the biggest crossroad of HR professionals?
Okay. Uh, the biggest crossroad is the managing of the sensitivities. The sensitivity. Because we are now, the way I have seen it, is we're now getting more people to really become, realizing that when I go back, I might not have a job. And I was just talking to some entrepreneurs, they have closed down their businesses. So, when you start talking about that, you're talking of now the sensitivities of people. And that's not something that is easy to address. Okay? Because when you say sensitivities, ang critical sa akin dito, kailangan yung HR practitioners, gamitin mo na lahat ng senses mo ngayon. Cannot just be this is what I heard or this is what I saw, di ba? Because this is the way I see it now. There will be a tendency for people now not to immediately show how they feel. Okay, so there has to be that rationalization at the back of our minds, and how sensitive I am in a situation. I mean, it's that I will have to reach out now to people and tell them there will be new rules of engagement. There will be some departments that will have to be restructured. Diba? There will have to be some work, responsibilities that will have to change. There will have to be reassignment. And I tell you, this is not for me change. This is caused by the change in the environment. So for me, the biggest challenge is the sensitivities. Sensitivities. And that's why uh, it is very important for most, if not all, HR practitioners, I'd like to call them practitioners for my terminology, to really ask themselves yung third slide ko, yung limang R. Because that's you eh. Ikaw ang haharap eh. And imagine if those 5 R's, you are not ready for it. So when you face the music, baka kainin ka ng buhay. I hope terminology, sorry for that word. Pero di ba sasabihin lang, ikaw nga, HR ka, ba? Sigurado ko ba may trabaho ka pa? So that for me is the biggest challenge. It's the sensitivities. I know malalim yon. There's so many meaning for sensitivity, but I hope people can understand. Sensitivity starts from you, not from them. Starts from you.
Heightened senses we must have as HR practitioners, Sir Ricky, at this point in time. And I think I have seen one question, and I think that answers it, no? Especially for those who have gone on forced leave, etc., and then going back to work, you'd have to manage employees from, being on forced leave to doing actual work. Motivating them would be very difficult. So a lot of sensitivities and heightened senses required of HR professionals.
Right. I agree with you,
That's
Neil.
right.
Yeah. Okay. I think we will send the questions to Sir Ricky, where it's
Sure.
already 7:21. I'm sorry. We will be disconnected by
We have about 9
7:30.
minutes.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Right.
So there, I think Neil, what other things that we can do?
Yes.
Maybe can I
Yeah,
just
thank
say
you
a
very much, Sir
final,
Ricky.
probably a
Yeah.
final
Yes, please.
statement
Yes,
for
Sir Ricky,
everyone as
please.
well. First, I'd like to say
That's right.
thank you to your group, guys. This is something that I really appreciate because you're able to make me reach out to a lot of HR practitioners. Uh, what I'd like to remind everybody is the 3 sets. Okay, uh, about you need to connect and understand where your executives are coming from. You need to understand where you are as an individual as well and the sensitivity, and then you need to bring it to the level that this is not an HR department's issue only. It is everybody's issues. Okay, and if those are supported by those R's that I shared, the 5 R's, total of 15, then we have a resurgence. And again, this is one thing I'd also emphasize that as much as possible, sa akin lang, try to avoid using the word, we need to change. Kasi natatakot na nga ang tao, mag-change pa tayo. Use the word instead, we need to respond because of the changes in the environment. And yes, I appreciate you can send me the questions, and I invite everyone. You can, hook to my FB page. It's there. You can get in touch with me, and I would like to answer those questions. And may this not be the last time you invite me.
Of course, Sir Ricky, of course. This will be the
Definitely.
start.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pero,
Definitely, there's a lot of sessions for you.
oh,
I'm very
salamat.
much interested on how to assess psychological issues in the workplace. That's very
Yeah.
important for me.
Right, and I'm happy. Thank you. By the
Definitely.
way, for those who are listening, and if you can just put in any chat there for me for my psychic income, marami pong salamat.
Yeah, right.
Thank you very much.
We cannot
Neil?
thank you enough, Sir Ricky, we cannot thank you enough, Sir Ricky, for accepting this invitation. I'm sure a lot of people in this virtual floor have learned a lot from you. And me myself, as an HR practitioner, I'll be sharing a lot of these with my colleagues in my company right now. But what I have learned really from you, this is the high time for us to really be interdependent and be connected with one another and collaborate. No, it's not anymore, well, the job of the management. It's not per se the job of HR per se, but the job of everyone. It's everyone's concern. And, we can really research and will not use the word change more, no, but rather respond to the situation by, really working collaboratively and working interdependently. So we appreciate very much your sharing, Sir Ricky. So thank you very much, guys. And we are very happy to have reached more than 100 participants today. And we would also want to thank, of course, jobstreet.com for making this possible. And I believe we could promote still. We have about 5 minutes. After today, there will still be 2 days, no, for our virtual classes. And tomorrow we shall have Mr. Eric Manalo joining us, and on the 15th rather of May, and then on the 16th of May we'll have Darwin Rivers, our own president, having his session in relation to our virtual classes. So, Paul, would you like to share something for the team or with the team?
I'm good. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. There's a lot more of webinars, and like what Neil said, we just have to respond to whatever we have right now, and we have to reconnect so we could share what are the practices that we can, the best practices that we can apply to each organizations that we have. Well, I'm good. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Sir Ricky. It's really a pleasure to have you. We
Yeah,
really
thank you
learned
again.
a lot.
Thank you. Visit
So,
my
to start
FB for more motivational
yes,
posters.
definitely you'll be receiving. I'm sure you'll be receiving a lot of queries. No, they are now starting to like your FB page, and
All right.
I'm sure you'll be more than pleased to respond to the questions that they will be asking you, sir, after this session. So it has been a fruitful night, Saturday night for everyone. Thank you very much again for joining us. Thank you again to jobtree.com for making this possible. And I'm not sure if Darwin Rivers is still here, but thank you very much, Darwin. Thank you, Paul. It has been a pleasure co-hosting with you. And again, thank you, Sir Ricky. So we'll see more of you, not just online sessions, but probably when
Yeah,
there will
let's
be
do
times that
more
we could,
engagements.
more
Thank you.
engagements. We look forward to having you in these engagements again, sir. Thank you very much. So God bless everyone. Stay safe. Yeah, stay healthy. So we'll see more of you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank you very much, Darwin. It's been a pleasure. So,
Tapos din.
di ba? Pwede bang mga
Good
3 hours
job.
to, Sir Ricky, no?
May,
Pwede bang,
may gali.
pwede ba 3 hours ito? Pero I enjoyed it.
Oh, well,
Okay.
I again, I thank you for inviting me, because what I wanted to do is also bring to the HR practitioner the business side naman being a business consultant, so that they get to see also where the executives are coming from, but at the same time, they get to also assess themselves. And I really appreciate, binabasa ko nga ngayon yung sa chat ng mga participants, and I really am overwhelmed with the graciousness of our participants, that they appreciated the session. Sabi nga nung iba dito, can we pass it, can we have this longer? But I think sharing does not stop, right, guys? I mean, it's more, and I'm really happy that you were able to invite me, and I was able to find time to start a discussion and a sharing on that side. Whew.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sir Ricky, for for not saying no to our invite.
Oo nga,
And
nagulat ako. Well, I mean, I can also reach out naman. I mean, also, pero for something like this, sure, why not? Kasi I felt what I could share would also be something different because I'm coming from a business perspective, di ba? Business consultant and advisor. Pero how do I see HR? And that's why I was emphasizing HR is now a more critical partner from that perspective as well. Kaya I had to break it down into three. Sana hindi ako naging boring, ha?
no, no, sorry, Ricky. There were a lot of questions. Nagkulang lang tayo sa oras.
I
Actually,
agree.
out of those questions, konti lang yung napit.
Natanong.
But I'm sure that the whole session has been recorded. I will upload it later
Please do
on
so.
YouTube, and then we'll post it at the Philippine HR group and tag you guys. Okay?
Please do so. Sure.
Have a wonderful evening. Maraming salamat po.
Neil, Darwin,
Maraming
thanks a lot.
salamat.
Si Beverly,
Thank you
nawala
very
na.
much, sir.
Thank you
Thank
po.
you. Bye.
There you
Bye.
are,
See you
Beverly.
soon.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Everyone.
guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Salamat. I'll check Beverly out.
Thank you.
I don't see her photo.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks,
Sige,
Bebs.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank
Happy Saturday.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Bye, sir. Bye, Darwin.